Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that sounds, frankly, a little mind-bending. We're going to bridge a gap that might seem impossibly wide at first glance: the ancient, timeless philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita and the absolute cutting-edge discoveries of modern quantum physics. So let me ask you this. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by just the sheer noise of the modern world, and you've wondered how to find genuine, lasting clarity in your daily actions, well, you are in exactly the right place. I mean, every single day we're bombarded with this chaotic storm of decisions, doubts, and stress, right? Whether it's the endless pinging of notifications, a toxic work environment, or just that general lingering anxiety about the future. Our minds are just constantly oscillating, reacting to a million different stimuli. But what if the secret to quieting that storm isn't about changing the world around you, but fundamentally understanding the consciousness within you? Interestingly enough, both ancient sages and modern quantum physicists suggest that our reality is deeply, intrinsically intertwined with how we observe it. But to understand how this works practically, we first need to look at what's actually driving our actions. And that actually brings us to chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, which introduces this profoundly psychological concept, Shraddha. Now, this is often just translated simply as faith, but the texts we're exploring today make it super clear that Shraddha is not some kind of blind belief, not at all. Rather, it's a deep, intrinsic conviction. It is the absolute core trust that shapes every single thought you have, every word you speak, and every action you take. It's basically your psychological operating system. And according to the Gita, this faith isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It actually takes on the specific color of your own dominant inner nature. Okay, let's dive into this. Ancient Samkhya philosophy, which is pretty much the backbone for a lot of the Gita, maps out our inner nature into three gunas, or modes. First up, we have sattva, which is all about goodness, luminosity, and clarity. Then there's rajas, and that's characterized by passion, dynamic motion, and desire. And finally, tamas, which represents ignorance, inertia, and heaviness. Basically, every action we take, even something as universally viewed as noble, like charity, is heavily influenced by these gunas. Understanding which guna is actually driving you is a total game changer, because it allows you to step back and act as a neutral witness to your own psychological state. For example, just listen to this incredible verse. When you give to someone simply because it's the right thing to do, at the right time, to a worthy person, with absolutely zero expectation of getting a reward or a favor in return, that action is sattvic. It's totally grounded in clarity and balance. But if you give grudgingly, or maybe you're just doing it because you're hunting for a quick tax write-off, well, that's rajasic. And if you give disrespectfully, or say you just toss your leftovers to someone who didn't even ask for them, that's tamasic. The big takeaway here is that when we perform our daily actions without that heavy attachment to the chaotic results, we cultivate a sattvic state, and that state is the absolute foundation for a peaceful life. Now, you might be wondering, okay, what on earth does a sattvic mindset have to do with quantum physics? It's a fair question. To understand how a sattvic mindset literally changes our reality, we actually have to zoom out to the macro level of physics. For a long time, classical physics told us the universe was just this giant, deterministic machine, matter interacting with matter. And you, the observer, were just a separate, passive bystander. But neo-quantum physics completely flips that script. It suggests we live in a probabilistic universe, where reality actually isn't fixed until it's observed. So in this emerging paradigm, your consciousness isn't just passively watching the universe roll by. It's actively participating in shaping the whole shebang. And that brings us to an absolutely crucial concept in quantum mechanics, the observer effect. Before you measure a particle, it exists in a state of superposition. It's basically a wave of multiple potential realities. Think of it kind of like a spinning coin that's both heads and tails simultaneously, until you slap your hand down on it. The very act of observation literally collapses that wave of probabilities into one single definite reality. Now, try applying this to your own life. Just as cultivating that witness perspective in ancient philosophy calms your stress, acting as a conscious observer collapses all those endless chaotic waves of mental noise and self-doubt into a clear, single reality. Now, what's really fascinating about this breakdown is how beautifully these three tiers illustrate this exact convergence. At the top level, we have the gross state, and that perfectly corresponds to classical physics. It's the physical, tangible world we see every day. Then we have the subtle state, which maps right onto the probabilistic quantum realm. But deeper still is the karana, the causal state, aligning perfectly with neo-quantum physics. This is the unmanifest quantum vacuum. The ancient texts actually say this causal state is pure consciousness itself. It's the ultimate source from which all physical and subtle realities actually emerge. So science and spirituality are literally pointing at the exact same foundational truth here. And that realization is perfectly captured in one of the absolute greatest sayings from the Upanishads, Tat Tvam Asi, or that thou art. You see, you are not merely a fragile physical body or a chaotic mind just getting tossed around by a random universe. At your absolute core, you are that very same underlying consciousness that shapes reality. It's amazing when you think about it. The deep interconnectedness proven by modern quantum entanglement, where particles influence each other instantaneously across vast distances, it mirrors this exact ancient teaching, that all multiplicity, everything we see, arises from one single unified source of consciousness. So, the big question is, how do we actually tune into this underlying consciousness? Well, this is where the ancient sound of Om comes in. But I want you to stop thinking of it as just a religious chant. Think of it more as a frequency. As the author Jeffrey Falk describes in our sources, Om is the cosmic drumbeat. It is a universal interference pattern of waves vibrating in this infinite ocean of consciousness. It's literally the primordial rhythm of creation manifesting right out of the void. When you chant or even just meditate on Om, you are quite literally attuning your own personal resonant frequency to the foundational quantum wave of the universe. Let's move to the next concept and see how this frequency actually builds, step by step, according to the Mandukya Upanishad. The chant of A-U-M isn't just some arbitrary sound. The A sound represents the waking, gross physical state we talked about. Then the U sound takes you inward to the dreaming, subtle quantum state. The M sound draws you even deeper into deep sleep, the unmanifest causal state. But here's the real kicker. The most important part is actually the fourth step, the silence that follows. That soundless state is called Turiya. This is pure, non-dual consciousness. So each time you chant Om, you are systematically collapsing the chaotic waves of your mind all the way down into pure, silent awareness. And all of this profound understanding brings us right back to the incredibly practical advice in chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita. Having just explained all those psychological gunas, Krishna hands Arjuna a really powerful tool, the three-word mantra, Om Tat Sat. Since the very beginning of creation, this phrase has been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. It's essentially a formula used to sanctify our daily actions, our work, our charity, our sacrifices, and to intentionally strip away the chaotic, selfish motives that cause us so much unnecessary stress in the first place. Let's actually break down exactly how you can use this in your daily struggles, because it's a real game changer. You start an action with Om. This aligns your intention with that infinite, universal truth we discussed. It's a reminder that you're part of the cosmic ocean. Then you move to Tat, which means that. This right here is the ultimate cure for modern anxiety. It means doing the work with total detachment, completely severing your stress over whether you'll get the promotion, the social media likes, or the financial reward. You just do the work. Finally, Sat stands for reality and goodness. It means being steadfast and doing your duty beautifully. Using Om Tat Sat as a mental framework essentially guarantees that you act with a clear, sattvic mindset, perfectly insulated from the chaos of expectations. So the crucial point here is that we aren't just talking about abstract mysticism anymore. Modern neuroscience is directly validating this ancient approach. Studies actually show that when you regularly practice mindfulness, when you cultivate that inner witness who observes thoughts without getting completely tangled up in them, you physically alter your brain patterns. You naturally foster a much healthier detachment from mental noise. You radically reduce stress. So by practicing the detachment of Tat and tuning into the frequency of Om, you are quite literally rewiring your brain to process the chaos of everyday life with incredible grace and profound clarity. We've covered an incredible amount of ground today, from the psychological operating systems of the Bhagavad Gita to the collapsing wave functions of quantum physics, all beautifully unified by the cosmic vibration of Om. The science and the philosophy are crystal clear. You are not just a passive victim of a chaotic world. You are the conscious observer. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to carry into your day. Will you let your mind be continuously tossed around by the endless waves of external noise? Or will you choose to step up, be the conscious observer of your own life, and collapse those waves of doubt into a reality of clarity, purpose, and lasting peace?